Hi YouTubers, this is your friendly neighborhood reviewer Evelyn. Today we're going to be reviewing the Ghostbusters franchise, and most predominantly Ghostbusters Afterlife. But let's first delve back to the original film that came out in 1984. It was classed as a supernatural comedy film, directed and produced by Ivan Reitman, and written by Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis. It stars Bill Murray, Aykroyd and Ramis as Peter Venkman, Ray Stantz, and Egon Spengler, retrospectively a trio of eccentric parapsychologists who start a ghost-catching business in New York City. The film also stars Sigourney Weaver and Rick Moranis, and features Ann Potts, William Atherton, and Ernie Hudson in supporting roles. So the film starts off with Peter Venkman, Ray Stantz, and Egon Spengler are parapsychological professors at Columbia University investigating the paranormal. Following their first encounter with a ghost at the New York Public Library, the university dean fires them and dismisses the credibility of their research. In response, they establish Ghostbusters, a paranormal investigation and elimination service operating out of a disused firehouse. They develop high-tech, nuclear-powered equipment to capture and contain ghosts, although their business is initially slow. After a paranormal encounter in her apartment, we see the other character, Dana Barrett, who's a musician, played by Sigourney Weaver, and calls the Ghostbusters. She recounts seeing a demonic dog-like creature that uttered the word Zool. Ray and Egon research Zool and details of Dana's building while Peter inspects her apartment in a failed attempt to seduce her. The Ghostbusters are hired to remove a gluttonous ghost, Slimer, from Sedgwick Hotel. Having failed to properly test their equipment, Egon once warns the group to never cross the energy streams of their proton pack weapons, as it could cause a catastrophic explosion. They capture the ghost and deposit it in an ecto-containment unit under the firehouse. Supernatural activity rapidly increases across the city, and the Ghostbusters become famous. They hire a fourth member, Winston Sedamore, to cope with the growing demand. Suspicious of the Ghostbusters, an Environmental Protection Agency inspector, Walter Peck, asks to evaluate the equipment, but is rebuffed by Peter. Egon warns that the containment unit is nearing capacity and supernatural energy is surging across the city. Peter meets with Dana and informs her that Zool was a demigod worshipped as a servant to Gozer the Gozerian, a shape-shifting god of destruction. When Dana returns home, she's possessed by Zool. A similar entity possesses her neighbor, Louis Tully. Peter arrives and finds the possessed Dana/Zool claiming to be the gatekeeper. Louis is brought to Egon by police officers and claims he is Vince Clorov, the Keymaster. The Ghostbusters agree to keep the pair separated. Peck returns with law enforcement and city workers to have the Ghostbusters arrested and the containment unit deactivated, causing an explosion that releases the captured ghosts. Louis/Vince escapes in the confusion and makes his way to the apartment building to join Dana/Zool. Ray and Egon reveal Dana's building was designed by Ivo Shandor, leader of the Gozerian worshipping cult, to function as an antenna to attract and concentrate spiritual energy to summon Gozer and bring about the apocalypse. Faced with supernatural chaos across the city, the Ghostbusters convince the mayor to release them, and then we have this iconic scene and really cool 80s music. The Ghostbusters travel to the apartment roof building as Dana/Zool and Louis/Vince open the gate between dimensions and transform into demonic dogs. Gozer appears in the form of a woman and attacks the Ghostbusters, then disappears when they attempt to retaliate. Her disembodied voice demands the Ghostbusters choose the form of the Destructor. Ray inadvertently recalls a beloved corporate mascot from his childhood, and Gozer reappears in the form of a gigantic Stay Puft Marshmallow Man that begins destroying the city. Against his earlier advice, Egon instructs the team to cross their proton energy streams at the dimensional gate. The resulting explosion destroys Gozer's avatar, banishing it back to the dimension and closes the gateway. The Ghostbusters rescue Dana and Louis from the wreckage and are welcomed as heroes. So I'm not going to break down Ghostbusters 2, but more like move over to Ghostbusters 3, Ghostbusters Afterlife. Ghostbusters Afterlife is a very good plot because it ties in together the first two films and gives it meaning and sense. Because it talks about in 1994, following the Ghostbusters' defeat of Vigo the Carpathian, Egon Spengler discovered a prophecy predicting that Gozer the Grozzarian will return in 2021. So the enemy that they defeated in the first film centers that the enemy will come back in Ghostbusters Afterlife. So Egon, straining the friendships from his teammates Ray, Peter, and Winston, takes most of their gear and relocates to a farm in Somerville, Oklahoma, where Gozer's devotee, Ivor Shandor's mining company, is located. Lacking equipment and with supernatural activity declining in New York City, the Ghostbusters eventually disband. And then we have decades later, in which the beginning of the movie sets up, already Egon, an old man, using as a trap to capture the entity in Shandor's mind and lures a separate creature to his farm. Egon activates an elaborate setup in his ground, but the power fails and he conceals the ghost trap in his home before being attacked by a creature and suffering a fatal heart attack. His estranged and financially struggling daughter, Callie, inherits the farm and moves there with her children, Trevor and Phoebe, after being evicted from the Chicago apartment. Trevor, infatuated with the car hop Lucky Domingo, and the scientific Phoebe enrolls in a summer science class at the middle school under mentorship of the seismologist Gary Gruberson. And so we can tell that Phoebe takes after her grandpa Egon, and that Egon's daughter, jaded by not understanding why her father left, is going, on the down and outs. So the story, it really does sum up everything of Egon and the prophecy about Gozer the Grozzarian, and then we've got a lot of nostalgic themes. And the actor Harold Ramis unfortunately passed away before the third, a long time before the third movie, so the third film really is dedicated to him and what he helped write with Dan Aykroyd. What makes Ghostbusters Afterlife as well pretty special, it was directed by Jason Reitman, the son of Ivan Reitman, the original director. You could already see that the story was treated very carefully. You could still feel the feel of Ghostbusters 1 and 2, and we get the sense that it closes up the story perfectly, because when Phoebe's investigating and finding out about the paranormal in Ghostbusters Afterlife, the ghost of Egon is there guiding her and his daughter about what to do. And ultimately Phoebe, being the strong introverted person who doesn't know how to interact with society, she brings, in a sense, the Ghostbusters back together by phoning the helpline and getting contact. Spoiler warning, they go and defeat, Gozer the Grozzarian for resurrecting. Even though Ghostbusters Afterlife, you could almost say, is a rehash of two people getting possessed and all. This kinds of the prophecy of Egon the Grozzarian coming back every decade or so kind of makes sense why they appeared all of a sudden in New York around that time span, and then again in 2021 in that town. Yeah, so spoiler warning. All three of the surviving members, they turn up at the end, including with Winston, to go and help defeat Gozer the Grozzarian. But it's ultimately Phoebe and her ingenuity that helps successfully defeat him permanently. And then we have a nice touching scene at the end where the ghost of Egon appears and he was able to reconcile with his family, especially his daughter, and then move on into the next life. Thanks YouTubers for watching this video. A bit of a different format. Hopefully the lucky ones reached it to the end. So leave any comments, share and subscribe for more content. Thank you very much.